All right. Welcome, everybody. Good morning, good evening, good night. Whenever you are listening to this podcast, this is the Teachers Workroom, and we are Formation. Join us as we discuss real-world issues such as politics, pop culture, race, religion, and social awareness, guaranteed to come from diverse perspectives. So, Dr. Bethel, what's going on?
That's right, JG. Stepping into the workroom, like I said last week, stepping in and stepping out, okay? So just going to do a quick whip around just to see how everybody is feeling right now. So I'm going to kick it to Miss Williams. Leisha, how are you feeling, ma'am?
Hey, everybody. I am feeling, the word I want to use is golden. Let's start with that. You know what it is, golden.
Okay, well, she's feeling golden, living your life like it's golden. Okay. Let's go ahead and pass it to Selah. Selah, what's going on in your world?
Well, listen, I love the golden, but I'm feeling a bit uneasy. I'm feeling, one word, anxious. Sorry, I had to bring it two. I'm feeling anxious and I'm feeling uneasy, but we're going to talk about that later.
Oh, yeah.
We are.
Yeah, that's understandable. And then JG, how are you feeling?
Ciao. And I'm gonna leave it right there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, same. You know, I'm feeling the same way. I'm just feeling restless. Honestly, I feel restless. I feel nervous. I feel anxious. But anywho, shout out to Phi Beta Sigma fraternity. Yes, sir. Happy Founders Day, and then happy Founders Day to the other D9 Greek organizations that are coming up as well. So I'm gonna pass it back to you. Period. Poof. In the words of JG, I'm gonna pass it back to you, my brother.
All right, wonderful. Well, I know that this has been a week full of news and noteworthy things happening in our country. And so, Leisha, can you just remind us about all the things that would have transpired in just the last 5 days?
Yes. So let's talk about our top 5 headlines, right? This week. First things first, we are super excited because in Georgia, Democratic Party, first Black Democrat in the South, and first Black person from Georgia, Raphael Warnock, has won the Senate seat, as well as Democrat Party Jon Ossoff. They won both the Georgia Senate seats, giving the Democrats control in both chambers of Congress. A huge win. We know that Georgia is a red state. Excellent. We're super happy about that. Number 2 for the win for us as educators, Miss Betsy DeVoe she resigned. So she's going to sit down real quick, like we need her to do. Okay? So along with other cabinet members, but we know as educators, on a serious note, this is a win for us.
Yeah, absolutely.
She quit, obviously, in response to Wednesday's deadly attack on the Capitol carried out by Trump supporters. And she blamed the president for the violence, which we'll talk about a little bit later. All right, now some not so good news. Third on the list, the December job report was awful. So in the U.S., there were about 140,000 jobs lost last month, which was the first drop in employment since April. The December losses were heavily concentrated in leisure and hospitality businesses, which have been hit especially hard by the pandemic. We know this, like restaurants and hospitality, the industry it's been hard, right? The industry cut nearly 500,000 jobs in December, while sectors less exposed to the pandemic continue to add workers.
Before we go on to the fourth topic, Leisha, any quick reflections on Betsy DeVos, the job loss, and of course with the first Black senator from Georgia being elected to the House? Was he the first Black ever, or the first Black in a long time?
From Georgia, first Black, I believe.
Okay. I see. My thing about it is that I am completely happy. Yeah. I'm overjoyed. I'm ecstatic that Stacey Abrams was able to generate that
Flip
amount
the voter
of
turnout. Suppression. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But the thing that always comes to me when we have these first
Child.
is that
Child.
it's 2021 and we're still having first Black, fill in the blank, in the United States of America.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, to me, is always like, really?
Especially Georgia. That's the third, the third state with the largest Black population.
Right.
Huh?
Right. It's interesting.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
But if you think about Georgia historically, Georgia played significant roles in slavery, trying to control power in the Civil War below the Mason-Dixon line. And I just want to also, I think we really need to, really big up Stacey Abrams.
Yeah, for real.
Because,
let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Listen, sister had a chip on her shoulder. She was like, "Oh, y'all want to take away the government? No problem, baby. I'm gonna go grassroots. I'm gonna go old school grassroots, door to door, and I'm gonna get my brothers and my sisters who have been disenfranchised, and I'm gonna bring them to the polls."
Oh,
period.
How about that?
All right, Leisha, what else is going on?
Alrighty. So COVID, we know this has been trending in the headline we already said that we are about to be 12 months into remote learning, which is just, unbelievable. So the U.S. for the first time has recorded more than 4,000 deaths in one day. This was on Thursday, I believe, just one day after the situation at the Capitol. So this is from complications of COVID-19. Johns Hopkins University's Coronavirus Research Center reported 4,085 coronavirus-related deaths on January 7th, bringing the total U.S. death toll since the beginning of the pandemic to 300,065. Both figures continue to far outpace the virus's toll in other nations. And this is coming from NPR.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And then, so to follow that up, right, we know, or we may have heard that there's a new strand reported, right? So the U.S. is woefully ill-equipped to deal with the new coronavirus variant, right? And this is from the New York Times. That's because the U.S. has no large-scale nationwide system for checking coronavirus genomes for new mutations, including the ones carried by the new variant. That is now surging in Britain. So we know in the UK, they've already been on, I think their lockdown has started, right? And it's going to mid-February. And again, here we are in the US just waiting and wondering why we're waiting.
And, there's no real leadership from the top as it relates to this pandemic. And people are literally losing their lives by the minute.
Yeah.
From complications from COVID, but also from other types of diseases and disorders. I believe this week in California, there's so many medical facilities and hospitals that are at capacity that now they have to they've created a criteria for determining whether EMT should bring people to the hospitals or leave them to die. That in itself is so boring. And a singular example of how we have not treated with this issue effectively and efficiently and sufficiently. It's mind-blowing.
Yeah. Can I also add that Leisha said something very important. She said ill-equipped, right? And then JG just said it's mind-boggling. And something came to my mind around, what has America really been able to hide behind all of these years in different sectors, right? And it's racism. Because if you hide behind racism, you put up this smoke screen, right? So you can deviate from the real issue. that you have to face. And we'll discuss that later as well. But I'm just reflecting on a first world country, if you will, that is now behind in treating its citizens.
And Courtney, just to put a button on that, right? What you said is exactly the thing that other superpowers like Russia, and in particular Russia, that's what they consider, because they know that America's weakest bone, or whatever it's called, or kryptonite, is indeed racism. And they've done the work, right, to further divide that and to pull down the smoke screen so that it is even more exposed.
Yeah.
It's some crazy. It's crazy. Well, it's not crazy. I mean,
right.
It's the reality of it. All right. Okay. Yeah. All right, Leisha. What else is there? I know you said that there were 5.
Yeah, we have one more. The last thing I want to say is, like, this is our second opportunity to act quickly on this COVID. You understand what it's just like, oh, so we really gonna do the same thing. We gonna ignore the what do you call it, like the warnings, or like the what are we waiting for? Anyway, we're not surprised, but it's just like constantly, really. All right, let's move on. So lastly, not so great, but again, something that doesn't surprise us. There were no charges against the officer in Kenosha, Wisconsin, for the person who shot Jacob Blake 7 times, who is still and remains paralyzed from the waist down. We're not gonna say his name because he don't need no airtime, no credit, no following, no clout, none of that. We know who we're talking about, and it's just, again, right, like what.
I'm actually interested, Sulla, what do you think about that? Right? You, of the 4 of us, you are a parent. So I'm sure that you have just a different lens or perspective, right? We're viewing this as, oh, that's another black man. Yeah. What are your views on it, particularly from the perspective of someone who is raising a black man?
Yep, and we'll be raising 2 soon.
Oh, shout out.
Honestly, I think our opinions, our feelings are the same. I think, especially as educators, we all feel like we are raising black boys and girls, and it's unsettling. Of course, it's unsettling, but it's also, and this is unfortunate to say, it's also very familiar.
Yeah.
And it also doesn't feel like a surprise, like Leisha was saying, like it doesn't feel like a surprise. No one is surprised. We just gotta hold our kids tighter. We just gotta move quicker. We gotta move faster. We gotta think harder, and just keep going.
That's the scary part, right? The desensitize. What is it? Like you just become so desensitized to.
Yeah.
It's like air. It becomes like air. You breathe it in, and it's normalized.
Talking about being desensitized by these matters, right? The American Capitol was under
with a no.
But child, even the city, the district of DC, the city of DC, child, by extension, so the Capitol with a no, and the Capitol with a name, were under siege this week. We heard words like an insurrection, a coup d'etat. What were some other words that folks threw out there? A siege. Domestic terrorism, an act of domestic terrorism.
Yes.
And, we all, of course, were in communication with each other when this transpired. And the thing that we all could agree on, in the name of being desensitized, is that we're not surprised. That Black people across America were definitely not clutching their pearls at this one. Period. Because we have been living in the reality that is America for a really long time, while others particularly non-blacks, have been living in the facade that is America, right? What are some of the things that people need to know? And Leisha, I'm asking you, because girl, you got all the information. What are some of the main points around the storming of the U.S. Capitol that our listeners need to know before we even jump into talking about it further?
Yeah, so let's set the scene. So Wednesday, January 6th, an angry pro-Trump mob stormed the U.S. Capitol while the Congress, they were in the middle, literally, of counting the electoral votes. That's what was happening at the time. We know how Trump feels about losing the election. Let's call it what it is. You lost, you're done, you're out of here. So the mob assembled after President Trump delivered a speech to his supporters near the White House in which he urged them to march on Congress about a mile and a half away. Shortly afterward, hundreds of people climbed walls and broke through the building's doors and windows, swarming hallways, just steps from where lawmakers were meeting. A woman who was shot inside the building was pronounced dead at a local hospital. So we're just seeing, like, we were able to witness how egregious this was, right?
Yeah.
Like, someone died in the name of all this, right? Yeah. So many of the intruders carried Trump signs and banners. Some carried American flags, others carried Confederate flags, Trump flags, or Nazi emblems. Since then, we know that Nancy Pelosi has been calling for an impeachment on insurrection, which is, a violent uprising against an authority or government. What's scary about this, right? So 57% of Americans want Donald Trump removed from the presidency. And that's coming from CNN, right? My thing is 57%, we as a country are still so torn, split straight down the middle. Even after witnessing something like this, 57, only, let's say that, only 57% of Americans want him or believe that, there's enough evidence for, his impeachment. We know that since then he's been banned from Twitter twice at this point, and other social medias, I believe Facebook as well, right?
Yeah.
So that's what's happening. I want to know your initial thoughts, right? Let's go back to this day when the news broke. I believe this started around 2:10 p.m. So we're all educators. We were most likely heavily engrossed in our work. Where were you? What were you doing? And what were your immediate reactions?
Yeah, before we jump in, I just want to add one more context that although Trump did give that announcement at 1:00, like he tweeted or whatever, this was something that was planned well in advance, and people knew, including law enforcement, and chose to do nothing about it. And that's a really important context. In terms of what I was doing, ain't nobody business, but
you better say it.
Let's say I was around, okay? But after getting the CNN alert, I was on literally watching TV. I watched TV the entire day, and then the four of us was chatting all day about what the heck is going on. Although I was not surprised, I was definitely shocked, to be honest. And I was shocked at the magnitude by which this was happening. In addition to no one doing anything, and people are gonna argue, well, people were doing things. There was an officer that was killed, et cetera, but come on. In comparison to what could have happened or what should have happened.
Oh, what would have? Go ahead.
What would have happened?
What would have happened?
No, you're right. What would have happened? We can all agree that nothing was done. I'm gonna leave it there.
Yeah. I know for me, I was in the middle of a meeting, of course, but we're working from home. So I had the TV actually on mute because I was in the meeting in the back. And I had missed Trump's speech in itself. So I was kind of out of the loop as it relates to the directions that he gave this mob, right? To go march on the Capitol, so on and so forth. But the thing that that caused me to just like stop in my tracks and like turn on the volume was the image of the mob literally rushing or breaching the barricades and the doors and the security and everything like that, and just pushing themselves through. And then shortly after that, an image of them like walking through the rotunda or whatever it's called.
The chamber, yeah.
Yeah, and I literally, everyone in the meeting actually paused because it was, is this happening? And similar to what Scylla said, it wasn't a surprise. It was more of in shock at the image of this being televised all over the country and by extension the world, and the message that was being immediately sent here, that there is a clear difference in the way that we, one, deal with these types of matters, the way that we advocate and protest, but also the way that it is received and the way that it is treated with. It was a very clear difference. And actually, you know, all my friends from around the world were all messaging me in that moment. One, because I do live in close proximity to Washington, D.C., but also two, to express dismay and shock in just how different the response to what was a domestic act of, or rather an act of domestic terrorism.
Yes.
Like that was the main thing that they were messaging me about, just a difference in the response. And yeah, so my first reaction was more of like, whoa, they're allowing this to happen. Yeah, that they're allowing this to happen. And had this been another group of people, particularly, had this been Black people,
even thought about it? Have we even thought about it?
Yeah, you know,
not even executed yet.
There's a GIF, or TikTok going around with this woman that says, "Shoot, if Black people had even shown up,
listen,
within 2 blocks of the Capitol, they would have been shot."
And that's also the context for people who maybe don't live around DC, Maryland area, or if you've never visited, you know, the Capitol, the White House, the monuments, the museum. The Capitol DC is one of the most policed places ever.
Exactly.
You cannot walk in any type of proximity to the Capitol, to the monuments, to the White. You can, if you go on a school trip, you are seeing the White House from a distance. You taking your pictures and you going about your business. There is no, like, I'm just like, when I was there in the wait, how are they on the it's so gated up, guarded up.
Breaking windows.
This was allowed.
It's not funny.
Climbing the damn building like you Spider-Man. What the hell are you doing?
Okay.
It was...
And taking pictures.
How are you that close that you can break windows?
Yeah. Dr. Bethel.
Listen.
I'm just chewing on it. You know what? It was the memes and the GIF for me. You know, and and how, you know, Black people really were like, "Child, that's y'all problem today. We got enough. We got enough to deal with anyway, right?" Because I was in Georgia, and you know, we were watching the runoff anyway, and that came across, you know, like you from CNN. But more so, you know, I'm just thinking about, I heard someone tweeted and posted and said, chickens come home to roost, right? And
shout out
yeah, so Kes shared something from someone else. I can't remember his name, but in essence, it said, this is how America was taken, well, at that time, the 13 colonies or whatever, but that's how white America took America, in essence, you know? So I was like, damn, I never, we just never think about it, like that. But, that's how they entered our
True.
beloved
Talk
Africa,
about it.
and
Yes.
raided with their violence,
Captured,
and took our ancestors, and I just really want us to, as Black Americans, if you will, people of color, if you will, I think the question now is, like we're saying, like if they were Black, XYZ would happen. But I want to push the conversation to, we know there's a double standard, right? We know if we look at the stark difference from the Black Lives Matters pictures to the quote unquote protesters at the Capitol. And I was like,
touch
baby,
Auntie Maxine,
y'all better
honey.
not
We pulling up, okay?
Listen, we were going to be deep, rolling to Washington.
Where they at though?
Like, where Auntie Maxine at? Oh, she good? Auntie, you good? Okay. She's like, I'm fine. Then we good, right? But I think the conversation now is like, to push it further. It's like, we know there's a double standard. We know all these things, but like, what now though? For people of color, for Black Americans, like what now? We know it's a double standard, right? So we see, Black people moving and shaking, right? Getting into the house, getting into these seats. So what does it mean? You got, Black woman as the vice president. Yeah. What does this mean? For us?
I like that you said that, Dr. Bethel, because one of the things that I'm very much passionate about is, of course, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And in that work, we talk about privilege, we talk about power, we talk about oppression, but we also talk about internalized oppression, right? Something that the reality is that all of us, Black folks, we do have a certain degree, each of us has a certain level of internalized oppression that we have to continuously and constantly battle or go against and, do the work. I believe in doing the work, honey, each and every day. And so to answer that question more directly, Dr. Bethel, one of the things that came to my mind was, I hope that those of us who have internalized the oppression around who we are as a people, we're monkeys, we're barbaric, we don't know how to act, we're aggressive, we're uncivilized. Thank you. All of those words that have been used throughout history to describe us as a people. When I looked at the images coming out of thugs, this week's insurrection, I am like, I became encouraged and empowered to break those chains of internalized oppression even more, because I was like, wait, and they want to call me and my people monkeys, but look at this motherfucker over here climbing up this wall. They want to call me barbaric, uncivilized. But look at this motherfucker over here.
How about this? They want to look at us crazy when we enter the store like we finna steal, bitch. You stole us first from Africa, honey. We wouldn't be here, honey.
Okay. So for me and my students in particular, one of the things that I brought to their attention was that, at the end of the day, you really have to work on your mindset around who you are as a person. And continue to develop that and pay attention to the values, right, that you develop over time. Because when the money and the fame and the titles and the degrees and all the assets and the tangible things are stripped away, you are left with who you are as a person, your own values. So forget what they say about who you are and what you can do and what you can accomplish, because clearly you see on that TV that the labels that they've placed on you throughout history and that you have internalized are clearly incorrect, are clearly mislabeled. Because Look, the barbarism, the uncivilized behavior, the monkeys climbing the walls and the desks are all on TV in front of us, are all in the photographs throughout the media. So I really hope that folks really saw that as a whoa,
wake-up call.
A wake-up call, and start to break those chains of internalized oppression.
Yeah. Jamal, I cannot agree with you. I cannot agree with you more. And Dr. Bethel, that is such a great question. Like, yeah, we could talk all day about what this means for America and how we're thinking about white people, but more importantly, what does this mean for us as a community, as a people, as Black people in this country? And I agree with you, Jamal. We need to become more vigilant. We need to become more aware. But then I think the next step, and then there are already, let's be clear, there are people who are very aware, very vigilant already. But the next step is that we need to become more independent, okay? Yeah. We need to become more self-reliant, okay? What we saw transpired, if it did not remind you that we don't have a place
here, we're not
please
home.
Let it remind you, okay? That was not our faces on that screen. They were not fighting for us. Our people are being killed daily, and they don't show up for us in this way, okay? So what does that mean? That means we need to become even more independent. Yeah. I love the fact that we have so many more Black representatives in Congress. Yeah. But besides that, on the community level, we got to start doing for ourselves. Yeah. We got to stop looking to politicians. We got to stop looking to principals and administrators and networks. We need to look to ourselves. Yeah. We need to build in our community day by day. We need to build those bricks.
Princess, I'm sorry, Sola, you mentioned we need to do more in the community as it relates to like being more independent in thinking and in doing. And you mentioned networks and schools and so on and so forth. So let's bring this home, right? To school, right? What are the parallels that we see between what transpired this week and our experiences as educators of color in schools?
Yeah, one quote that comes to mind is, like, you guys remember last summer when there was all this racial tension. Again, let's not act like it's the first time, and if we're being quite honest, we don't believe it's the last time, right? When all of this was happening, it was incited by Ahmaud Arbery, the killing of Ahmaud Arbery. Then it went on to Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, and then the Jacob Blake shooting. There was all this preparation before, right? When there were talks of there being a peaceful protest. And I remember Trump saying, when the looting starts, the shooting starts. And this is, it relates to us in our workspaces, because every time that Black people, or it's been, I think, in all of our experience, we felt gaslighted or gaslit when we are trying to express our passion, right? But when white people do it, it's understood, it's warranted, they have a reason. Let them be, let's hear them out. And it's just, we've seen this, Black women in politics expressing themselves, Michelle Obama, Kamala Harris, Maxine Waters. They're angry, they're aggressive, they're passionate, they're not passionate, they're emotional. Yeah. The double standard again, right? And it's present in our workspaces.
Yeah. As you were saying that, Leisha, I was writing down some words here, and it's in my experience, especially as an educator of color, Black educator, my white counterparts have protested or have advocated. That's the word that we use a lot. That's the word that we use a lot in schools, right? That they've advocated for themselves and they've advocated for their students, quote unquote, let's put that in quotes, right? But when it comes to a Black teacher advocating, they are arguing, right? They are losing control. They are being too aggressive. They are fighting. They are being combative. That's the word that they.
Child.
That's a big
one.
That's a big one.
That's a big
That's
one.
a big
Oh.
one. That's a
That's-
big one.
That's
That
the
they're
favorite. That's
combative,
the favorite.
That they always got
Mhm.
something to say.
Unable to take
That
feedback.
They don't know. There we go, Leah. Come on, girl. Come on, girl.
Not receptive.
They're
to
not
feedback.
res-
Oh,
they're
that's a big
not-
one.
They're defensive. They're not receptive
defensive.
to feedback,
Defensive.
so on and so forth.
Mhm.
When really and truly, I'll be
Mhm.
honest and say, and y'all know me, I keep saying a buck, right? It's like I have had to explain to one white leader one time, or as a matter of fact, just tell her, like, who are you to tell me how I feel and therefore should do as a Black man and Black educator for these Black kids? I have more in common as it relates to not just the physical, but also the experience and the culture to my students. So who are you to tell me what is best for them? Because you went to school and picked up a book
Child, talk about it.
and studied it somewhere and walked out with a savior complex and decided to become an educator. Now, let's be real. You can't really tell me what's best. I'll be honest. You just can't. You can tell me what you think is best based on what you have learned, but you can't tell me what's best.
Mhm.
So I'm thinking about two things, right? Let's all reflect back to a certain environment when we were in PD, right? And if you will, we will sit in PD just like how we were sitting the other day, watching the people climb the wall, and we will watch people of color make a suggestion, raise their hand, blah blah blah. And it was treated as such, like the Black Lives Matter protest. Oh my God, you got everybody just jumping on it. We got to shut that down. We got to silence them because they're too strong. We have seen systems shift just because people of color, i.e. us, were seen as too powerful, right? So school-wide systems were shifted for adult culture, whatever, right? But like you said, we have seen when white people have raised their hand and made a suggestion, it's like, oh my God, that's the best thing since sliced bread. Why didn't we think of that? And we're like, what? Like we've sat there and we've been, I won't say victims. I won't say victims, but we have been the proponents of the double standard in our daily lives, personal and professional, right? And then lastly, I will also say that it's something that's very important, JG, that you just stated. You said a white leader, right, in these schools come in and then try to tell you as a Black teacher, but then tell parents of color, this is the best thing to do for your child who lives in whatever neighborhood they live in. But make no mistake about it, that is purposeful, because you just said that made the experience with what happened with the Trump supporters, it made you lift your head up, right? It made you stick your because it was like, listen, what they're doing, that's not me. So if you have a people who for so long you have told them who they are and they have believed it and internalized it, then you behave as such. But if you have a people who, like you said, you come to the room, it's like, you don't have to tell me who I am. I am coming to tell you who I am, right? So then we, like I said, make no mistake about it. The people who are placed, even the people of color, the people who are placed at these, they are strategically placed as people of color. And that's a whole nother segment. But make no mistake about all of it.
Can I put something in there for us to talk about, right? Because We know what we know. We know, like you said, Dr. Bethel, it is all systemic. As a result, as educators of color operating within a system that has systemic barriers put in place, and decisions are made strategically to keep us to keep the status quo, I should say. What then do we do, right? Do we fight? Do we continue to advocate? Do we continue to let our voices be heard despite what the consequence might be? Or do we stay silent? Do we stay complicit? Do we continue to keep our heads down and just work nonetheless? Because at the end of the day, the system is much bigger than us as individuals, and we don't think that we can really do anything to generate the kind of change that is necessary. What do we do? Salah.
We definitely don't be quiet. We definitely don't stay silent. I think that goes back to what we were saying before. All the things we need to do, and to add, we need to do it as a collective. We cannot do it. We cannot do it as an individual. It's just it's impossible. You know, and in addition, while that's happening, and I'll say that this is like in silence, we need to be creating on the sidelines, behind the scenes. We do not need to let other people know what we are doing, but we need to be establishing our own, even if it's in this country, our own country within the country. Okay, that needs to happen, and it needs to happen very quickly. And just a quick input. A few years ago, I had went to this workshop at Columbia University, and an educator said, his words were, "If you are afraid of losing your job, then you're in the wrong profession."
Oh my God, Salah, look at my page. Oh my God, I literally just wrote share.
No, seriously. More.
Can you say that one more time? Say it one more time for our listeners to hear this piece.
Yeah.
One more time. Go ahead, Salah.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
No, if you are about, and I'm gonna switch it up a little bit, but if you are about advocating, and if you are about progression of us as a people, you cannot be afraid to lose your job. Because if you are afraid to lose your job, you can't do the work.
You can't.
Tell these babies the truth. Tell these babies the truth. They deserve
one more
it.
time, Salah. One more time. I'm just kidding. Yeah, I mean, that line right there is something that became so apparent to me after I left one institution.
Yeah.
And I was like, JG, you have to, because of who you are, not just as a person, but as a Black man and as a Black educator who has been steeped in his culture, not just Black American culture, not just Black Caribbean culture, but African culture. You have to be prepared.
We have a responsibility
to be the one that is outside.
Blacklisted.
You have to be prepared.
To be blacklisted.
Be the one that's blacklisted.
Yes, come on.
You have to be prepared to be the one that's sidelined for that promotion. You have to be prepared to be the one who is pushed out the room.
Come on.
You
Push
have
out the
to
door.
be the one
Fired.
to
Come
prepare to be not hired.
Come on.
You have to be prepared to be the
Come
one
on.
who might just be
Come
fired.
on.
And still hold your head and your chest up high and believe that you did the right thing.
Integrity.
That you said the right thing.
Integrity.
And because of what you did and said, that your young Black and other students of color can walk away with just one nugget in their heart and in their mind about who they are and the ability that they have. I'm sorry, I was on the soapbox. I'm going to step right down.
It was very necessary.
No. listen, like I feel the Holy Ghost and this Holy Spirit, all of that, because y'all, and I don't, not to take too much time, but like that has been my experience as a Black educator for the past 14 years. The ostracizing, the blacklisting, the get him out the room, get him out the building because he's not going to follow suit. He's not going to go along to get along. You understand what I'm saying? And like you said, whatever I need to do on the side to make a mean, whatever, right? But I'm not going to ever take a job and be in a job where I have to lay down, because if we think about our ancestors, MLK, you know, everything is coming up, but it's like we have to, those people lay down their lives daily. You understand what I'm saying? Daily, so that we could then have a chance to, you know, integrate whatever. But at the same time, it takes the fearlessness, and like you said, to walk into a room already as an educator of color, right? To just walk in the room, right? And then to open up your mouth and to command the room and command respect and command that in itself, the day-to-day fighting, we know the day-to-day fight is draining, right? But we have to do it. And it is necessary.
Yeah. It's necessary. Before you give us our homework, Dr. Bethel, and Leisha and Scylla, you know, feel free. Okay, got it. Before Leisha, gives us the homework, I want to say one thing, right, to our listeners, particularly those who are educators, to feel encouraged to be fearless.
Yes.
And I think that in our initial stages, I think we can all admit to some degree that fear could have paralyzed our movement.
Of course.
You know, that
has paralyzed.
And to some degree it had, you know, at certain steps along the way, right? And I often find that with teachers in particular, because this is such a noble profession, and the pay isn't extraordinary, and the motivation behind it is just comes from a place of service, just like people in the military, just like people in the medical field, right? When they say thank you for your service, the first time as an educator that someone told me thank you for my service was in North Carolina, at the North Carolina Central University, when I went for a tour of that university. And one of the gentlemen there, you know, upon me saying, you know, I'm an educator, he said, wow, thank you for your service. And that for me was a confirmation that you got to do away with fear, because you are serving a generation and generations of people that are going to have the responsibility of keeping this country alive, moving forward. So you can't be fearful. You have to be fearless. There are thousands of jobs out there for educators.
Oh, yeah.
Just like there are thousands of jobs out there for service people. Because people respect the fact that you have served. And you got to wear that as a badge of honor. And wearing it as a badge of honor cannot, or rather means that you cannot wear fear anywhere on your body. Period.
Yeah. And I just want to add to that, like, you have to be real with yourself and figure out and understand, can I make real changes in the institution that I'm a part of?
Yeah.
Are there doors that are going to open for me to change the curriculum, to change the PD, to change the setting? And if your answer to that is no, then move.
Yeah.
And keep it moving.
Yeah.
Period.
So go ahead, Dr. Bethel.
Yeah.
No, I was just going to say, like, I needed that, right? because this week I just said to my family, I feel burnt out. I feel tired. But you just put me back in it of why I entered and why we were called, because we were called and chosen for this profession.
All right, so we're gonna wrap up our episode.
So thank you
Miss Leisha, what homework we got this week, baby?
All right, so in the name of standing in our power as Black educators, there's this quote that I love. And it's essentially what we're already saying, right? It's going to take us, we have to just make peace with the fact that it's going to take us longer to get where we're trying to get, because we're carrying our integrity with us, right? So in the name of standing in your power and embracing your empowerment, I want everybody to watch Ta-Nehisi Coates' documentary. I know most of us have already read his book, Between the World and Me. The documentary it's the same name. And it is just so empowering. So many moments of Black joy. It's super real. So be prepared for that, right? It does portray a very real aspect of America and where we are today. But again, not to a surprise to us. That's what I want us all to do, because we're walking into next week empowered, integral. We are walking in thinking about, what Sulla said. Are we in a place where we can actually make change? And if not, we need to start planning. That's where we are as a people. We need to start planning and preparing. So that's the homework for you guys this week.
All right, nice. Whew. All right, everyone, take a breath. That was a lot. That was a lot, and it makes me think about the things, right, that we can do to take care of ourselves and whatever, Sulla, we know that you're big on this. What you got for the people?
As Leisha said, we're planning and we're preparing, and as we're doing this, and as you said, JG, as we're doing the work, we have to do the work on ourselves too. We have to make sure we pause and we self-care. So let's go around. How are you self-caring? How are you filling your cup this week? Let's start with Dr. Bethel.
Yeah. So I'm going to be a little bit selfish with my Sunday, what I call self-care Sunday. So I'm going to get my skin together. I'm going to get a little facial tomorrow. Get a little massage, get my hair cut, get all pampered.
Okay.
Hello.
Okay. All right.
Hello.
I'm going into the work
Come
room,
with it.
fat and booty.
What we doing, Leisha? How we self-caring?
We are. So this week was exhausting as far as news and the media. We're going to take a break from all of that. It's quiet this week for the news and the media. We're going to check in or just decrease our consumption to maybe twice this week versus every day. I'm someone that can get super sucked into the news because I like to hear the facts straight from the source. I don't want to hear it on social media or from other people. So that's what I'm going to try to implement this week. Taking a break from the news and the media.
Yeah. What about you, JG? What you doing?
I have actually started to do some exercise at home,
Yes, he has. Yes, he has, honey. Yes, he has.
Summer 2021, baby. Oh, good. That's snapback.
That's how he heard
but,
you.
On a serious note, though, I people know that I'm from the Caribbean, from Trinidad and Tobago. So, every day I want to listen to a little bit of soca. I ordered some resistance band home gym situation. Leisha, stop laughing. So
I'm supporting him.
Some resistance bands, home gym setup situation. And I'm very proud that I've been doing it for 2 weeks straight now.
Yeah, you've been consistent.
I've been consistent. The soca music helped because it puts me in a happy place. I know Carnival was supposed to be this year, February, March. We're not going to have it. So I'm going to have my own Carnival working out home here. So that's what I'm committing to do each and every day of the week, to kind of self-care.
Yeah.
Yeah, let us join you.
Okay, I'm gonna think about it.
Can you do like a live virtual one so like people can join?
See how he get
Well,
y'all.
tune in. That might be an IG post.
Okay. Okay.
So all those who are listening, that might be something in store. All right. For me, I'm right there with Leasia. I am turning off social media and the TV for at least a day or two. And while that's happening, just being completely present with those in your life in the moments, because we just saw things are happening so fast and they're happening right before our eyes, and before you know it, you don't have those days. So make sure you are valuing every single day and those in your life. Okay. And I'm gonna end it there and just say, make sure you are filling your cup, whatever that might mean for you. Make sure your cup is full.
All right. So, listeners, this brings us to the end of episode 2 of the Teachers Workroom podcast. Please add us, follow us, like us on Instagram at the Teachers Workroom podcast, on Facebook at the Teachers Workroom podcast. Our YouTube channel is up and running again at the Teachers Workroom podcast. You can find out, or rather view, all our content there too. Our podcasts are now available on Spotify, Pocket Cast. What are some other ones? Breaker,
Google Podcast,
YouTube,
Anchor.
And Anchor. Thank you so much. I'll do better next time. But this is Formation in the Teachers Workroom, signing out. Sending you lots of love and positive vibrations for the coming week. Later.
Deuces, everybody.